Hey everybody, Dr. Shawn Talbott here. Hey, we're going to talk about feeling worse before you feel better. A lot of times in this channel, we're talking a lot about feeling better, right? We're talking about improving your mental wellness and your mental fitness and your resilience and getting rid of your brain fog and getting rid of your fatigue and improving your mood and all this feel better. So that's the promise. But sometimes with the interventions that we recommend, whether we're just recommending them to customers or as certified mental wellness coaches, we're recommending them to our clients, people will sometimes feel worse before they feel better. And so that can be very disconcerting to your clients or to your customers, because here you're promising you're going to feel better, your energy is going to be higher, and the experience of the customer is that they feel more fatigued, or your mood is going to be better and they feel grouchier, or you're going to be calmer and you're more irritable. You get the idea, right? Why in the world would that be? Well, this happens a lot in the natural products industry. When we start to rebalance the body, when we take a system that is unbalanced and we try to rebalance it, sometimes there's a little bit of a resistance there, and people can feel worse before they end up feeling better. And that generally will last. It could last a couple days. It could last a couple of weeks. If it's a really bad sort of change, it could last a couple of months. I'll explain why in just a second. But it's very disconcerting. Sometimes people will call this a detox reaction. Sometimes they'll call it a healing crisis. I don't really care what you call it, but it's, in my lingo, I would call it, a transient adaptation phase, right? Where for a short period of time, your body is adapting to a new normal, to a new state of balance, and that sometimes can make you feel a little bit off. You might even feel like you might be a little achy. You might feel a little malaise. You might feel like you have the flu, something like that. And the reason for it, with the kinds of interventions that we often recommend, and I've been writing about for years and years and years, these gut-brain axis interventions sometimes will result in the early phases, will result in a die-off of the bad bacteria. So let me give you a really simple example. Let's say that you have a client that has been subsisting on a standard American diet, a fast food diet, lots of processed foods, lots of junk, and so that's going to have it's going to have a lot of refined carbohydrates in it, a lot of probably oxidized oils, a lot of red meat, not a lot of vegetables, not a lot of fiber, not a lot of phytonutrients. Just that simple switch from a standard American diet, which we know is associated with feeling awful, switching them to like a more of a Mediterranean style diet that is less processed foods, more whole foods, more seeds and nuts and fruits and vegetables and lean proteins and healthy fats and all that kind of stuff. You would think that switch would cause somebody to feel amazing immediately. The day that they switch away from a standard American diet onto a Mediterranean style diet, or what we call the mental fitness diet, you think that they would feel better immediately. And they don't. People might feel a little more bloated because they have a lot more fiber that they're not used to. They might feel a little bit tired. They might feel a little bit brain foggy. The exact opposite kinds of experiences than they're expecting. And part of that is because now what you're doing by switching the diet, the baseline diet, you're starving out the bad bacteria. Those bacteria in your gut, the bad guys that have grown on this fast food, that have grown on the standard American diet, that have grown on all this processed garbage, when you remove that food, you start to starve them. And when they starve, they die off. And when they die, they will release inflammatory compounds into the gut, which will eventually get into the system. These are those inflammatory cytokines that we talk about a lot. So those inflammatory cytokines go into your body. Your body will respond as if it has an infection. So your immune system will respond, your inflammatory cascade will respond, and for a period of time, and there's no way to know, is this going to be a one-day thing or a 1 week thing or a 1 month thing for that particular client, they might feel a little bit worse. And there's a couple of ways you can help them through it. We can use things like herbal motility enhancers like artichoke leaf and ginger root. We can use digestive enzymes. We can use different dietary supplements like different probiotics and prebiotics and things like that to help ease them through the process so they're digesting better and eliminating better and making more of the feel-good neurotransmitters so that it can counteract some of the like the bad feelings from those inflammatory cytokines. So we can do that, or we can tell the person to back it off a little bit. Go easy with your dietary transition. What I like to do though is I like to explain to people what I just explained to you and say, look, it's going to be a transition. Push through. If it's not too disruptive to your life, like if you think you can sort of like pull the Band-Aid off, so to speak, and just keep going with it, you will come out the other side feeling amazing. And like I said, for some people it's going to be a couple of days, for some people it might be a couple of weeks. But if you can do that, you're going to feel so much better on the other side. If you do it for a couple of days and then back off, and then do it for a couple of days and back off, every time you go back into eating better for a couple of days, you're going to go through that process again, right? You need to get the bad stuff out of there, get the good stuff to start to populate. That's the fiber and the phytonutrients and things like that. They're going to start growing the good guys. So that's if we want to call it a transient adaptation phase, TAP, that's what it is. It's not gonna be forever. You're gonna feel better on the other side, but that's what's going on. And I wouldn't say that you should expect it in people, but it's something that happens on enough of a regularity where we know it's a real thing. We know that it's something that, it might be in 10% of the people that we're counseling. But in those 10%, it's a big disruption to their life. So we should be prepared for it and know exactly what to do when it happens. Okay. Hopefully that helps you to help people if they feel worse before they feel better. Okay. See ya.